Welcome, beautiful friends, to the Way of Mastery. We're starting our deepening of lesson number 9 tonight. All events are neutral. Who found this a very welcome idea the first time you heard it? Really? Garnett, we'll let you do the wrap-up tonight. That's cool. Must have been made it for an easy lesson. But all events are neutral. Nothing about our experience in the world, nothing has taught us that all events are neutral. Quite the contrary. And if you watch your consciousness, you will soon discover that it is an evaluating entity. It's always evaluating everything. What people look like, what clothes they're wearing, would you sleep with them or not? Fashion, does this benefit me? Does this not benefit me? Do I get this color? Do I get that color? I mean, the mind is placing value incessantly on everything. It doesn't see any events are neutral. I mean, we wouldn't be carrying around all these bags of past hurts and secret fears if we had known all those events our whole life were neutral. But of course, we're carrying around all the baggage because we didn't believe they were neutral and we judged them like crazy. So anyway, this is the least favorite. This is one that gets most people's attention in the Course in Miracles. When you get to this lesson or you get to it here in the Way of Mastery, all events are neutral. It's like, yeah, but. He talks about it. He'll talk about it here. Oh, it's fine if it's on the other side of the world, but if it's your next door neighbor, if it's in your backyard all of a sudden. So just watch within your consciousness all the places where you are placing value and what you're placing value on and what things you're willing to throw out. What subtle stuff under there is doing that evaluation? It's certainly not Christ, so we have to uncover what all that is. So we'll get started tonight with the axioms.
I am created as my Father created me to be. I am free, and nothing sources my experience but me in each moment. Nothing has an effect on me whatsoever, save that which I choose to allow to affect me. I need do nothing. I do not live any ordinary moments. With each breath, my experiences are the stepping stones laid before me of God to guide me home. Therefore, I will bring awareness to each moment and allow it to teach me how to forgive, how to embrace, how to love, and therefore, how to live fully. The only relationship which holds any value at all is your relationship with God, your creative source. And the keys to the kingdom: desire, intention, allowance, and surrender. And the definition of love: love allows all things, accepts all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, and is therefore transcendent of all things.
Thank you, Cindy. So number 1 tonight, nothing sources my experience but me in each moment. It's the only time you can be experiencing anything is now. If you're re-accessing and recreating what seems to be a past memory, you are creating a present experience of it. So the only time we can experience anything is now. But look at how much your mind is not present with what its now experience is because it's thinking about the past or it's fantasizing about the future. So the experiences are all happening now in each moment, and that's the only time you can experience anything. Are you present with that experience, or are you thinking about it and going on and talking about it? Because if you're talking about an experience, you're already in the past. By the time you get to thinking, the experience is gone. That's why it's so much about resting in silence, because if you don't have time to think if you're really going to be present. Thinking is always a past event. Even when we think we're thinking about the future, we're creating a past event by thinking about the future. Number 2, I need do nothing. That's just number 2 tonight. That's just number 2 tonight. Step 1, step 2, I need do nothing. Number 3, with each breath, my experiences are the stepping stones laid before me of God to guide me home. So when you take this lesson, all events are neutral, and you tie it together with one of the teachings from the Course in Miracles, and he'll certainly talk about it in this pathway, that all events are happening together for good. All events. Not just the events that we say benefit us, not just the events that we think are going well because someone seems to like us. All events are happening together for good. And it's very powerful when these teachings really crystallize within your being. All events are happening together for good, and all events are neutral. Wow, I mean, that's like doubling down with the Spirit and getting really wide open. So, all experiences are stepping stones laid before me of God. So, what events in the world are you willing to say, those aren't stepping stones laid before me or humanity by God to guide us home? You know, sometimes we need to know how suffering we are before we say, I've had enough. You know, sometimes we need to go, things just aren't going so well, I'm ready to make a change. I know in my life, I've had to say, there must be a better way. If you're in this room or you're listening to this video, somewhere in your life, you've said, there must be a better way. So we all come to that. Number 4, the only relationship which holds any value at all is our relationship with God. So look at your concept of God. Because everybody has a concept of God. You have a definition of God which you've learned from the world or from lots of different sources. You may have amalgamated one that you tend to like better. But you're not so much in a relationship with God. You're in a relationship with the concept that you've created within your being about God. So I wonder if you'll be willing to let go of all your concepts of God so that God might show up within your being because you're now open, because any concept you have about God is pushing the truth away from you. And we get very cherished in our beliefs about God. But that's the ego clenching down in fear rather than truly being open to revelation or direct experience. So just look within your being. What are my concepts about God, about divinity, about afterlife, about anything? Because they're all cons first. Are you willing to let all that go so that you might actually allow God, your creative source, to reveal relationship to you, divine relationship? Otherwise, you know, and anybody who started this pathway, we probably had one concept of God, and it's probably getting a lot less rigid. It's getting a lot nicer God than what we might have started with, what we learned in the world. But even that you need to be willing to get rid of, so that you can truly get in a space of openness and what we call readiness for revelation. Because you're not ready to be revealed the truth when you're saying, I know what the truth is, and it's ... And we can even say, God is love. That's what Jeshua said 2,000 years ago. In this pathway, he says, only love is real. Well, we can repeat those words till the cows come home. But what if we go, I have no idea what that means? What if rather than protesting I know what that means by saying the words with such frequency, I actually go, God, I don't have a friggin' clue. How about you just show up and reveal yourself? And I won't put any limits on what that might look like, what that might feel like, what that experience might be like. Because it's only then that we can truly get into relationship with the mystery that is God. Keys to the kingdom, we'll talk about surrender tonight. Surrender is about allowing the truth to be revealed to you. Not trying to make it true through effort, not trying to make it true through striving or through force or through your little separate will. It's about surrendering into thy will be done. And you'll get to a stage where enough will be revealed that that's all you'll want. You'll laugh at the fact that you ever thought you had an individual will. It'll just seem crazy to you. You'd never want to exercise a will apart from that of the Creator. And love, you know, this definition, God, if you'd say God allows all things, accepts all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, and is therefore transcendent of all things. Well, duh. None of us think God's, I don't know, you might. I certainly don't think God's suffering because of what we're doing on this one tiny little globe in an infinite universe. So if you want to experience the transcendence that is our divinity, because God is certainly allowing all things already, whatever it is, and it's going, well, that's a neutral event. It's no big deal. It's just my child playing with an incredibly vivid divine imagination, with an incredible manifesting power, but it hasn't changed the truth of what I created the offspring to be. So when we're willing to open up and release this idea that God has to be a judger, that God has to only like this and not that God's for this and against that God likes these people and not those people. I mean, all that's just crazy. That's the ego's God, wanting to keep a God of duality and one of separation and one of fear. Cool. So tonight with the Lord's Prayer, we're going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to listen to Jeshua channel this through JM, but rather than doing Jen's version tonight, Gordon suggested that we actually read the English translation that Jeshua gave. So Cindy's going to read that after we listen to this one. You ready?
Awun, the Washmaya, Ni te Kadash Shema, Te te Malkuda, Neve Sivinach, Akina, the Washmaya, O Baraha, Haulan, Lachman, Zunkanan, Yalmana, Boshwoklan, Halpin, Akina, Daphanan, Shwakin, El Hayabin. Ula talan el mission, el pasan en bisha. But all the lachim el kuta, uhaila, utish bhakta. La alam. Amen. Amen.
Father, Mother of the cosmos, shimmering light of all, focus your light within us as we breathe your holy breath. Enter the sanctuary of our hearts, uniting within us the sacred rays of your power and beauty. Let your heart's desire unite heaven and earth through our sacred union. Help us fulfill what lies within the circle of our lives today. Forgive your secret fears as we freely choose to forgive the secret fears of others. Let us not enter forgetfulness, tempted by false appearances. For from your astonishing fire comes the eternal song which sanctifies all, renewed eternally in our lives and throughout creation. We seal these words in our hearts, committed in trust and faith. Amen.
Thank you, Cindy. Maybe we'll include that from now on. What do you guys think? You like that? Yeah, cool. Well, it was a nice suggestion. Thank you, Gordon. Seems to be very popular. So I'll make a slide for next time where we'll have the verbiage up there. Yeah, we'll join in it together. Cool. So here we go. Ready, Cindy?
Mm-hmm. Now we begin. And indeed, once again, greetings unto you, beloved and holy children of light divine. Again I come forth to abide with you as your brother and as your friend, who looks upon you and sees naught but the face of Christ within you. And Christ is the firstborn of the Father. That is, it is that which is begotten and not made. Christ is God's creation. Christ is the holy child of God. Christ is as a sunbeam to the sun, radiating forever from the holy mind of what I have called Abba. Therefore I come forth to abide with you in perfect joy, and in perfect freedom, and in perfect reality. I come forth to join with that part of you that abides always in perfect knowledge, perfect peace, perfect knowingness, and in perfect union with your Creator. I come not to speak of things that you do not know. I come not to use words which do not already abide within you. I come not with the wisdom that you do not already contain. I come not with a love grander than that which already flowers within the silent places of your own heart. I come not to place myself above you. I come only to walk as an equal beside you.
Man, you could take all 35 of these lessons and pull the first paragraph out where he greets, and they're like divine love letters. They really are. I mean, he doesn't hold anything back in trying to get us to see how he sees us and what our truth is. What would it be like if you just lived the first paragraph without any more theology, with no dogma, with no anything else? Just accept that is what's true about me. And I'm going to breathe that truth, I'm going to live that truth, and I'm going to see how creation shows up if I originate my being from that first paragraph. That is very good stuff. I do want to point out, he says, radiating forever from the holy mind of what I have called Abba. He called it Abba. We call it God. You can call it whatever you want. The point is, he's saying he identified it by giving it a name. That's not to say that that's what the name is. It's really nameless. So if you don't like God, find one that works for you. You can give up why you have all your beefs about God. That's going to have to be forgiven and let go anyway. But the point is, call it what you will. Call it the self. Call it anything. But call it something that makes you tingle inside. That makes you go, yes, I resonate deeply with that connection. And he sees not but the face of Christ within us. How many of us have been fearful to engage with guidance because we're sure it's going to convict us? Because it knows what we've done, and we're fearful that the judgment that we believe deep down, even if you say the words, I don't believe God judges, deep down there's probably something there that's contrary to that starts to extend into your mind. I just completely lost my place. I had a big old cosmic something there. Whew! We're never seen as guilty. He's only seeing our radiance. He's addressing us as he sees us, as he is. It's got nothing to do with what we think with our thinking minds. It's got nothing to do with what we've ever done in the past or what you might ever think you'll do in the future. He's addressing you as he is, as the I am that God created. Radiantly pure, innocent. And that is innocent now. It's not that you're an ego and you finally forgive all your baggage. You finally give up forgiving baggage and just recognize the truth that's been true all along. Otherwise, you can become a master forgiver over lifetimes. It's beautiful when you forgive forgiveness. So therefore, he comes to abide with us, perfect joy, perfect freedom, and perfect reality. So by the way, that's our truth. Perfect joy, perfect freedom, and perfect reality. That's what the truth of us is. And all we're asked to do is abandon. There's a course lesson, I think today was the day for it, if you're doing it on the calendar, that the only thing I quote sacrifice, because he's making a point, it's no sacrifice at all, is fear. I joyfully make the sacrifice of fear, which was my own crazy creation, to simply accept that my truth is perfect joy, perfect freedom, and perfect reality. I mean, I'm just sometimes baffled, at least in my own experience, why it took so long for me to get that. That all I was asked to give up was fear, and I was holding on to it so tightly, when that was the truth of our being. That's what we wake up to. It's really cool. So he comes not to speak of things that we don't know, or use words that we don't know, because he's speaking from our one infinite truth. And this is another trap we get in, is this whole learning thing. We don't need to learn what we are. We already are what we are. We need to give up everything that we learned It's the other way around. We're not learning more, we're abandoning that so we awaken back into that which has always been true. Infinite wisdom, perfect peace, already within our beings. That's why this resonates so deeply with many of us, because the soul is saying yes. The mind still may think, oh, I got to study, I got to contemplate, I got to do all these things. I better listen to that 25 more times. The soul's already saying yes, and it's pushing from within to kind of get the dross up and out of your being. I come not from a love grander than that which already flowers within the silent places of your heart. There's a big clue. I would go, Father, where are the silent places of my heart? I wonder what it would be like if I abided there instead of thinking. What might get revealed to me if I actually went to where He says this is? The silent places of the heart. And immediately I can feel out there a bunch of concepts rising up to tell you what that is. Maybe even erase those and go, just show me. Just do me in the silent places of the heart. I don't want to have a concept about it. I want to be driving that resting into the silent places of the heart with my thinking mind. But that's where we'll find it. And He comes not to place Himself above us. I only come to walk as an equal beside you. How many times in 9 lessons have we heard, I am your perfect equal? Because I am is the one, and it's equal. Everybody's already got it. Because that's what God made. It's already done. Of course, your mind will protest like crazy. You're not equal to Jesus. You're not equal to Jeshua. Mine sure did. Because of course, in my mind, I had created this enormous separation. I had all these concepts that I learned in the world that He was the one. And the rest of us were what? Stepchildren or something? I don't know. But, we have all kinds of crazy concepts about that. So when you can actually begin to allow into your consciousness and drop the pebbles in your pond, I and Jeshua are one. What Jeshua is, I am. What Jeshua can do, I can do. What Jeshua knows, I already know. Not that I'll learn it in the future. All we have to do is get rid of the fact that we've learned that we're not that truth. Again, back to undoing. You got to love this kind of love. And He's asking us to love in this same way. To look only on the face of Christ in every brother and every sister, regardless of what seems to be happening. Is that really asking so much? To just be willing to see someone's divine innocence? We've done a little channeling from him where he called our egos Halloween costumes. Great! That guy's wearing a murdering Halloween costume, but behind it is the Christ. That one's wearing a dictator outfit, Halloween costume. That's pretty scary. But behind it is Christ. The innocent, perfect, radiant face of Christ that is in perfect freedom, perfect joy, and perfect reality. This is when your pathway really kicks off. This is when quantum leaps start happening, when you're willing to see that in everyone without exception. From Jeshua to Hitler, from your neighbor who cut the tree down, whatever it is, when you're willing to see absolutely everyone, somebody on Facebook who didn't like your spiritual post, whatever it is, when you're willing to see the face of innocence behind everyone, you will have stepped back from your costume, your ego costume, and you will be looking with the eyes of Christ. That's the only way you can see it. Because if you're in your costume, you think you're at the party and everybody's a Halloween character. Are you willing? We've done a beautiful dialogue about this called The Symbol for Christ's Vision, where we use this infinite piece of pristine white, infinite possibility paper. Anyway, it's really not asking much. If He's saying He's our perfect equal, that applies to everybody. Everybody. Look in your consciousness. Where are you saying that's not true? Or where are you trying to claim He's my equal but not someone else's?
I come because I love you. I come because I am your friend. And of all the things that I could possibly choose to do with the unlimited power of consciousness given equally unto me of my Father, as it was given unto you, of all the places and dimensions and worlds in which I could reside in this moment, in truth, I come to abide with you in this manner, as together we utilize a creation device, a communication device, you would call it a body, in order to bridge the gap that seems to yet separate you from me. In reality, all dimensions of creation reside in a space far smaller than the tip of a pin. In reality, all dimensions of creation are so vast that you could never measure them. In reality, there is no gap between where you are and I am. And this is why I can be no further from you than the width of a thought. But, oh, indeed, beloved friends, the power of a thought is the power to create universes, and within universes to create yet more universes, and within those universes to create world upon world, upon world, upon world, upon world.
I come because I love you, and I come because I am your friend. And of all the places he could be, and he's really every place, he chooses to help liberate the rest of us consciously. We've already been liberated because we were created free. We're actually using our freedom to create our sense of imprisonment. He's just trying to wake us up from back to our freedom, and that we're using it right now. And we utilize a creation device, a communication device you call the body. In this case, he's referring to JM who's channeling through. And communion is a common union. Yeshua couldn't channel through JM or anyone if there wasn't a common union within our infinite consciousness. It couldn't happen. Many of you have had mystical experiences. That couldn't happen unless you're already in conscious union. What happens is we separate the curtains for a moment, bam, we see it, and we immediately put the curtains back. And then we run around, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be really great if God gave me another mystical experience, or if I saw reality beyond the veil or whatever. And we're the ones that keep shutting the curtains. It's not God. There's no source outside us that keeps us apart from the truth of what we are. Quite the contrary, God's still radiating all of itself from its holy mind, creating all of creation. And we're putting a little veil and saying we're the thinker and we're the sum total of the thoughts that we think we think. But all creation is in a space far smaller than the tip of a pen. And all I had up here was a pencil, but it's still a very small tip. But you can imagine the tip of a pen. All of creation resides in a space smaller than the tip of a pen. But in reality, all dimensions are so vast you could never measure them. Sounds like a Zen koan, doesn't it? When this experientially drops into your consciousness, you'll just go, duh, I get it, I see. I was blind, but now I see. So if you think of the mind of God having no form to it, it's not like a mind, and even in your own experience, if you take the idea that the brain has anything to do with mind, where is it? Can you measure how tall it is, how wide it is, how thick it is, how deep it is? You know, in terms of mind, it just doesn't make any sense. So God's mind is infinite, which means it's also non-dimensional. So he's making the point that you can't measure it. It's not that it's not measurable, because measurement means nothing in that context. But yet, an idea held within the mind seems to be very, very specific. We can say a foot is this big, and 10 billion feet is really, really big. So within the mind, we can create the appearance as though there is space and time and distance and levels, that this is a little distance and that's a great distance. But they're all those concepts which seem specific are being held and created with a non-specific, non-dimensional, infinite mind that's not measurable in any way whatsoever. So when that actually begins to drop in, because right now, if you have a thought of $1 and a thought of $1 billion, what's the difference in terms of the thought? There's only difference in what you have assigned value to 1 or 1 billion. So when you start to peel back all the definitions that we use to make specific, and you start resting back into this complete abstract mind of God, incredible things can begin to be revealed to you. And most of what they're going to reveal is the unreality of all the things that you had defined and thought you knew what they were. This is why He is no farther from us than the width of a thought. And when He first dropped that pebble in my pond, and He was really clever at this. He's a master. He would drop a pebble, and I'd be diving in the pool trying to find that pebble because I just knew I could figure it out, and He was just exhausting my mind. He was just wearing me out. So I would finally surrender and allow the truth to simply reveal itself to me instead of trying to figure it out with the little tiny thinking mind. But anyway, the width of a thought. So ponder that. What's the width of a thought? When you really, it's a beautiful contemplation. I spent quite some time with it until it dropped in. But the power of thought is the power to create universes. And universes and universes and universes and worlds and worlds and worlds. Just look at our example of $1 versus $1 billion. Immediately, you've got a universe around $1 of almost complete insignificance and a universe around $1 billion of, oh my gosh! Who's creating that? And you're creating those two little universes or worlds with nothing but thought. Does that make $1 billion really anything different than $1? No, but within the context of your mind and with the width of thoughts, you're creating incredible worlds around those and around anything that we tend to define specifically through difference and judgment and value and blah, 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 blah. Whew. Cool. Ready?
And your lived experience is that momentarily your attention seems to be focused on your unique world, which shares some things in common with many other beings. You have what is called in your world a consensus reality. We would say a consensus experience born out of a universal reality. Beloved friends, even as you abide in your awareness in this moment, you are the creator of the world you experience. And you do this in so many ordinary ways. When you stand face to face with anyone, and for just a split second, you alter the position of the body through which you gaze upon them, you take a new stance, a new perspective, and in that very split second, you have created a new experience for yourself. When you look upon that friend, and the mind moves from neutrality, which is where you begin every experience, into the thought, oh, that is my friend Mary. That is my friend Saint Germain. Oh, that's my friend Peter. That's my friend Joanna. That's my friend Nathaniel. Whatever the name may be, when you hold that thought, already do you begin to change the experience.
This is really deep. When you start to define anything, he says, oh, my friend Mary. Well, that has only to do in his mind with what friend means to him. Because friend means something different to each and every one of us. There's no universally accepted definition of friend. So already you've begun to take what's neutral, which is what begins every experience, and color it. You can color it darkly, you can color it brightly, but you're coloring all the time. But usually we're doing that very unconsciously, because within any of us could say, gosh, friend means this, but if you really explore, don't you have memories about friends who betrayed you, or friends who abandoned you, or friends who did you wrong, or stole your partner, or stole, So you're carrying baggage about friend, which means the potential is that this friend might do me wrong. So we have no idea the depth of the universe that we create, or the world that we create, based simply on what seemed to me absolutely benign, and we would even call them benevolent definitions. I mean, you'd like to say, this is my friend Mary, but you probably knew people that were Mary that weren't your friends. So my point is, unless you really start to look very deeply within the very nature of consciousness and what's happening unconsciously, you won't begin to explore and uncover the subtleties with which you are creating unconsciously. And I can assure you, whatever we're creating unconsciously is self-limiting. It's not self-expanding. It's about making something small. Because of course, even when he says, this is my friend Mary, well, that's inferring there's a concept held there about things that aren't friends. You see what I mean? So even the word friend implies this whole levels and degrees of separation. And he says we do it in such ordinary ways and we don't even have a clue that we're doing it. And I'm not saying that it's wrong that we do it. I can feel a mind or two out there going, like contracting, oh shit, I do that. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm saying we're infinite creators all the time. But are you conscious about it? Are you present with what's going on? Or are you being run by what remains unconscious to you? Whew. So we're having a consensus reality, and he said a consensus experience. I mean, we all believe in rain. We all may have different opinions about rain, but we would pretty much agree rain is water falling from the sky. Snow is frozen water falling from the sky. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who would argue that, and that's okay, because it's an illusion, so it's not really there, whatever. The point is, we're operating in that vibrational soup of humanity, where we seem to have a very shared experience. So unless we truly begin to back our consciousness out of that and begin to be able to observe it with neutrality, with innocence, and with curiosity, we'll just continue to be habituated and bound by what we're not even aware of, which can be frustrating. It can continue to be limiting for us. Whew. So everything, the subtlest of subtles are creating new levels of experience. I mean, we've all had really close calls in our life. If we'd have been here, we'd have got run over, but we were here, so we weren't. So, I mean, we can appreciate, because it's easy for the mind to want to dismiss this as, oh, that's really insignificant. That's small change. Well, small change when you're this close to getting run over or not, this close to being awake or not, this close to being at perfect peace or not.
You are a literal creator in that moment. For when you name anything, you define it according to the factors that you have built into the name that you use. When you look upon a field of energy arising from the mystery of your planet Earth, and you say the word tree, that fast, you have brought forth into your manifest experience everything you have ever decided on what is associated with the field of energy that you have called tree. And in this way, your experience is entirely unique. It has never been before. It will never be. Nothing can repeat it. And this is why creation is forever new. Yes, you stand with your friend and look upon a tree and nod your head and say, Well, of course it's a tree. Yes, I see the branches. I see the leaves. But as soon as you have named it, you have brought forth within yourself all of the associations you have called to yourself, your experience of that field of energy that you have called tree. Rest assured, those in your world called environmentalist and those in your world that you have labeled loggers definitely see a different experience, though they use the word tree.
So he's going to get to it. Neither one is right. They're both creations made from infinite freedom and infinite possibility. There is no right or wrong. Those are, again, concepts that we came up with. So one of the exercises that he gave me was about following the bouncing ball. So I could say tree. What's the next thought that arises about tree? And what's the thought? So you kind of watch the bouncing ball and you begin to investigate what beliefs must be under the next thought. What would I've had to, what did tree trigger out of the unconscious, a belief that then expressed itself in another thought? And then what connected that thought? And you start to follow the bouncing ball and you begin to see into this web that seems that you're unconscious to. You can begin to follow the train of thought and begin to peer underneath the thoughts at what beliefs must be present for that thought to arise. And you start to see this incredibly diverse web of beliefs, definitions, judgments, goods, bads, right, wrong, all kinds of crazy stuff. So you can even use a simple word like tree to begin to peer deep within your being and get to a point where there is neutrality before the definition arises, before all those experiences that seem to happen in the world that took the bouncing ball going boom, 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 thought after thought after thought after thought. And you don't have to do this practice for long to start to really recognize, oh my gosh, there's so much going on in my consciousness that I was completely unaware of. I just took the thoughts at face value. If they were nice ones, I usually just didn't even question them. Well, where are they coming from? Where is some idea that nice thoughts are better than other thoughts? So the point is, follow the bouncing ball of thought. And look at the web of relationships, the web of things that are underneath each and every one of those thoughts. Because if you watch your mind, you'll go from tree to an experience in your past to some idea about the future. I mean, it's like, how in the world is this crazy series of thought happening? If you're willing to use it as a way to begin to peer deep and peel back the thoughts and go, what is that arising out of? What would I have to believe? Because a thought just doesn't appear in your consciousness if you don't believe it, especially, one of these that's the bouncing ball. I think J.M., I've heard him call it the connect the dots. And you can connect all those dots and start to find a picture there, and it's going to be ego, I can assure you. So anyway, but when I first started the pathway, I would have argued with him that was a tree. I would have said, brother, that's a tree. I see the tree. I can go over there and feel the tree. It's got bark. I was really defending my definition because I didn't realize how scared my mind was that if its definitions got pulled out from under it, all of a sudden it's going to be without definition. And the ego is nothing but a collection of definitions. That's why we fight for them. Because the mind is nothing but a collection of thoughts and beliefs and definitions and judgments and desired blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. So, he was like, dude, why do you want to argue about a tree? Are you willing to go, wow, what is that? Am I willing to look upon all things with neutrality, innocence, and curiosity and maybe see if something else is revealed? Or do I want to stay in a rigid mind that says, I know what this is, and I will defend it, and I will argue for it, and by the way, I'll judge you as crazy if you think it's not what I think it is. So just watch. You can really uncover a whole lot of what's driving your being that you're currently not aware of by following simple stuff like that. Who knew a tree could wake you up? Or at least the naming of a tree.
Which is right then, and which is wrong? This does not apply. And in this hour, we want to address for you another of the important pebbles that you must drop into the clear, still pool of your awareness. It is simply this: all webs of relationship, all energy fields are absolutely neutral. What creates experience is how you decide you will view that web of relationship, that field of energy. The effect of that decision is also completely neutral. But how can that be? For when a logger sees a tree and sees only the profit to be made, forests disappear. And when an environmentalist looks at a tree, the tree remains, and the mighty owls and the birds have a place to make their home. Surely, are we not to perpetuate the same reality, the same experience that all human beings have had? Is there not loss when the forest disappears? Listen well and carefully. All events are neutral. You are the one that places value upon it. Now, does that mean that one should become cold-hearted, unconscious, and blind to their actions? Of course not. For part of awakening means to realize one's interconnection with the web of all relationships. It means awakening a reverence for the mystery that is life. But it also means to release judgment of another who would view the tree differently. For you see, the body that you have crystallized out of a field of infinite energy has but one purpose. It is a communication device.
So no right or wrong. And you could put any situation. You could take tree out and you could put abortion in. You could take abortion out and you could put GMOs in. You could take GMOs out and put animal mistreatment in. You could take anything out and substitute something else, and there is no right or wrong. Every being is absolutely sovereign and creating their definitions freely. The thing is, we want everybody to think like we think. We want everybody to see it the way we see it. But he goes on and says, listen well and carefully. He's done this in these lessons many times when he's really trying to get our attention. Listen well and carefully. All events are neutral. Meaning within the mind of God, all infinite possibilities are absolutely okay. God's mind isn't split between good ones and bad ones. There's just perfect peace, infinite freedom, and imperfect joy. So, where are you holding on to concepts? And this is a favorite of the ego, like environmentalist stuff. And I'm not saying being an environmentalist is bad, but it can create a whole lot of suffering in your consciousness because you can suffer about a forest on the other side of the planet that your mind is convincing you is being cut down. And you can be at a loss of peace like that. So you're creating the experiences, and even the experiences you create are neutral. Even your rage and anger or your profit, even that's neutral. God's not even coming down to take sides about right or wrong about the experiences that you're created. So you're absolutely free to create an experience of suffering. Go for it. When you've had enough, you're free to stop. Because you think your idea that you need to defend trees or owls or whatever, which you're free to do. But you believe that somehow, deep down, if you follow the bouncing ball, there's going to be a belief that that's going to win you some praise. that's going to win you some prize or some, pearly gates entrance or something. And it's not like that at all. You're already within the pearly gates, using the infinite power of creation to create your misperceptions and your experiences. And for those of you who've been on this pathway long enough that you've moved from something that you used to be sure was wrong, and you let it go, and all of a sudden you find that there's peace where before you were deeply distressed, you begin to realize, oh my gosh, my distress really wasn't real. My beliefs about it weren't real, meaning they're permanent. I could simply forgive it, let it go, give it a whole new meaning, or give it no meaning, and all of a sudden be at peace. So if you look within religion, this is the main thing in religion. Look in the world's justice system. It's all about right and wrong, good and bad. You will not wake up playing that game. You won't wake up to the neutrality that is the truth of what we are. And the ego does not like neutrality. Well, it does so long as it gets to reserve the right to judge. It will say, oh, some events are neutral, but it will reserve the right to judge other ones. But it's total neutrality across the board. And that doesn't mean that you don't still have experience. He's not saying here, don't have experience. He's not saying here, don't choose freely what you want to experience and then experience it. Quite the contrary. He's saying you're creating it anyway. Just own it as self-created. But don't think that someone else has to change so that you don't experience something you're experiencing, because they're free to create what they're experiencing. Does that make sense? Because sometimes the ego will take this and go, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be a non-feeling just blob. And that's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying at all. Really get deeply that all events are neutral. You as a sovereign and infinite creator are free to give it whatever value you want, whatever meaning you want, to create your inner experience. I've chosen that all events will create peace as an inner experience. Everybody's free to make that choice, but they don't have to. My choice for peace is no greater than someone's choice for suffering. That's not right, and theirs isn't wrong. But the point is, become conscious of what you're doing. And if you're owning, I'm really pissed off about this, I'm choosing for my absolute sovereignty to be angry, well then own it. Be angry. It's okay. But don't justify your anger on something outside of you. Know that you're just making that choice of your sovereign being to experience it for yourself. It's not got anything to do with anybody else. You took a neutral event, gave it the meaning you had so that you could harvest an experience of anger out of it. Well, great. What do you want to do next time? Whew. So all events are neutral. I mean, this really will get you into your power of, oh my gosh, I'm creating my experience. And again, it's not to not have experience, it's to be conscious and choose the experiences that you want to have. If you want to be mad about the logging, well, be mad about it. But don't be mad about it because you're certain that it's wrong. Be mad about it just because I choose for my infinite freedom to use this to have an experience of being pissed off. And when you get to that level of awareness about it, you'll start to go, what? This doesn't make any sense. Why would I keep doing this to myself? I mean, I have a choice between perfect peace and being angry, and I keep making this one. I think I'll choose peace. I mean, that's why the awakening is assured, because anger and guilt gets really old. And everyone eventually will choose peace. So, of course, he goes to the disclaimer, because the ego will hear that and go, get all worked up. And he's not by any means saying be cold-hearted or not care or not participate or not be present. He's asking you to take full responsibility for your creations and allow everyone absolute freedom to have their creations. When humanity wakes up to that's what we are as infinite creators and we're doing this within, most of this stuff will stop of its own. most of humanity's suffering will go away. Most of the two sides fighting where everybody's losing is going to go away because the victors, I won a neutral event. I get a neutral event prize. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So release your judgment of those who judge differently than you do. As long as you want to judge, you're free to judge. Just judge just within yourself. But you'll let that go too. That'll get really old.
Therefore, let your primary perception, your primary guiding light in your third dimensional experience be this: what do I choose to communicate to the world with every gesture, with every breath, with every word spoken, with every decision made? For ceaselessly, while the body lasts, you are engaged in the process of communicating to the world, making manifest to the world what you have chosen to value, what you have called into your experience and imbued with value. This means that ceaselessly you are engaged in teaching the world what you believe holds the greatest truth, the greatest value. And when an environmentalist looks upon a logger and becomes exasperated and judges the logger, or vice versa, the body is being used to communicate the value of judgment. That creates fear and contraction, and the result you see in your world of many, many minds choosing to value the right to judge is the effect you call your world, in which everything seems to be expressing conflict, struggle, what you call the butting of heads, the conflict, the Armageddon of opposite ideas running into each other. And just beneath it all events remain completely neutral.
What do I choose to communicate to the world with every gesture, with every breath, and with every word spoken? With every decision I make. And he's talking about absolute consistency in that way. Because we like to play holy when we go to spiritual meetings, but then at the cafe when we with a friend we want to go off on the world, we like doing that kind of thing too. Because our body being a communication device, it's the lowest level of mind, so you're sharing it with absolutely everyone in the world. He said to me one time, why would you say that if you knew you were saying it directly to the face of every person on the planet? Why would you think that thought if it's effectively speaking it to every being on the planet? That'll kind of stop you in your tracks, because you'll see the ego's defense that, oh my gosh, I wouldn't mind telling somebody, certainly wouldn't want them all to know. And he was pointing at, of course, it's just one mind, there are no private thoughts, but you'll see the way the ego wants to hide behind this idea that it has private thoughts. And that will tie into this whole thing. And again, he points to every gesture, every breath. It's all in or not. What do you choose? Because there certainly appears to be, by many people's estimation, a whole lot of butting heads, a whole lot of people arguing over ideas. I mean, after you get all events are neutral, at some point you're going to realize, oh my gosh, there's only one thing, whether it seems to be a body or a tree or an iPad or whatever, it's the same one thing, and it's eternal. It just showing up as different seeming aspects of one eternal thing. So all of a sudden you recognize, oh my gosh, when I was judging, I was simply arguing to try and split the one thing into lots of things. And therein will rise in the consciousness the whole thing of duality. And once you've created it, you'll want to protect it. Once you've said, my ideas are better than someone else's, you'll want to hold on to them. Because having losing your ideas is like death to the ego. It doesn't like to be wrong. I mean, you can be at great peace when you say, I was wrong about everything, and it's okay. And I don't need to be right about anything, and that's okay too. Peace can settle into your being there. So, you're always teaching the world what you believe holds the greatest truth and the greatest value. Whether you're speaking a word or not, you're holding that deep within your being, and it's radiating out into all of creation what you value. He'll get to it later in this pathway that he learned to value only unlimitedness, freedom, and love. Only unlimitedness, freedom, and love.
And even if the forests of your planet are completely taken away, that would be a neutral event. And why? Because if all of the trees are gone, if the very physical planet you call Earth died, dissolved from view, life would continue. Life would merely create new worlds. It does it all the time. You do it all the time. The events, then, that you experience are always neutral. And what you see occurring in the world around you remains neutral until you make the decision what it will be for you. You will name it, and therefore you will define it. And when you define it, you call all of the associations of that to yourself. This is why once I taught, it is very wise to forgive 70 times 7 for a very selfish reason. For if one wrongs you, and you spend your energy convincing them that they have wronged you, that therefore you have a right to be angry, to be attacking in any way, you call to yourself, even into the cells of the body, the energy of conflict, judgment, war, death, disease, unhappiness, and separation that fast. But if you forgive 70 times 7, then in each of those moments of forgiveness, you call into your field of energy what reminds you of unconditional love, perfect peace, a power that transcends anything that arises in the world. You call to yourself the reality of Christ, and all of it hinges on nothing more than the pebbles that you drop into your mind.
This first paragraph, even if the whole earth dissolved, it would be a neutral event. I mean, I can almost feel some minds out there going, yeah, that's right. Well, get a flat tire on the way home and see if it's still neutral. Because this is one of the things the ego will do, is it will nod in approval and say, yes, I believe that. And all of that is a disguise so that you won't actually look deeper down. You go, is that true? Do I really believe that? Did I believe that 10 minutes ago? When somebody took the last brownie and I didn't get my share or whatever it is. So just look really deeply. I mean, I had them out the wazoo, and who knows? I might still have one lurking down there that I haven't seen yet. I don't know what I don't know yet. It may come up and I'll be like, oh, look at that. And I'll relish letting it go. So when he was working with me on this, I would say something and he would say, God is. Well, what if we run out of money? God is. Well, what if this happens? God is. He just kept answering it all with God is, meaning truth isn't going to change. Eternal life, eternal creativity, the fact that you're an eternal creator isn't changing by anything that you think is happening. Anything, any values that you're placing on anything. I mean, we never eliminate our ability to choose. Can anyone here eliminate your ability to choose? In the Course in Miracles, he said, nothing real exists, or nothing unreal exists, and that's, you don't have, let me back up a minute. Can somebody help me with it?
Nothing real can be threatened.
Nothing real can be threatened. Your choice can never be threatened. The fact that you're an eternal creator can never be threatened, whether you think you have a body or not. Nothing unreal exists. There is no opposite to creation. There is no opposite to the fact that you're eternally creating through choice. There isn't an opposite. If anyone can show me that you can eliminate choice within your consciousness, show me. I'd be really curious to see that. So there it is. We're always eternal. We're always in the mind of God, using that infinite creative capacity all the time. We're just asked to wake up and do it consciously, freely. That's when true creative power can begin to express through you. Even though you're using true creative power to create your conflict, judgment, war, disease, unhappiness, and separation, we're doing that. Each one of us has experienced that, where the body will, bam, like a freight train go into contraction. Because we're holding something that says that is not a neutral event. The fact that I said something that I believe and someone disagreed or yelled at me or the tone of their voice raised and immediately we go into contraction, well, that's just showing you, oh my gosh, I don't think that's neutral. The volume in someone's voice, I've got a whole database which tells me what's okay and what's not okay. I've given the volume of someone's voice all kinds of crazy meaning. From a whisper that I would really enjoy to a shout. I don't know about you, but if I'm about to get run over, I hope someone does shout. I don't want their whisper. So the point is, even in little things like this, we have created worlds upon meaning. And from those worlds and universes of meaning, created only within your consciousness, incessantly, you're always creating experience. Do you want to be conscious of that or unconscious of that? So forgive, and forgive for your own experience. He's not saying forgive for anyone else, because if you forgive someone else, I mean, one, you're only creating the separation that there's someone else out there to forgive, but you're not affecting their experience at all. And I've seen people really distressed because they've forgiven someone and that someone's behavior hasn't changed. Well, who told you it had to? Who told you it was supposed to? Forgiveness is that your experience changes. So be divinely selfish in this way. Protect your peace to, higher than anything else. That doesn't mean that you can tell other people how they must behave so that you can be at peace. You protect your peace regardless of how anyone else is behaving. Regardless of what seems to be happening in the world, regardless of what happens to the forest. Whew. So how many times do you try and convince someone that they're wrong? I mean, even when you don't get in an argument, when you just try and clarify because you think they've misperceived what you're saying. Well, what's an energy underneath that I really need them to think and perceive the way I'm perceiving? I mean, just look. It's subtle stuff sometimes. Whew. So, wow. Are you willing to be the world's greatest selfish forgiver? Why not? How great an experience could you create for yourself of perfect peace and perfect joy because you are willing to forgive it all. You're willing to rest in it's all neutral. God's not saying I have to see it anyway. I'm absolutely free and I'm going to choose peace. And I'm going to free everybody to choose whatever they have because you know what? They're free anyway. Why wouldn't you free them? Why wouldn't you allow them the freedom that you're always exercising? When they're ready to choose peace, they'll choose peace. When they're ready to wake up, they'll find their self to one of the bunches and bunches of pathways that are in the world. Whew. And you can call to yourself the reality of Christ. Perfect peace. Wow. And it's within you to do that now simply by the power of your choice. Are you willing to let go of all those definitions that you're holding on to that hurt? Because if you're holding on to them because, something, the trees are innocent or the animals are innocent or whatever, who are you hurting? Are you actually affecting what you're saying is the innocence experience? You can't affect their experience. They're infinite creators creating their own experience. And this is when we get into a lot of suffering, when we're really invested in what we want someone else's experience to be. I mean, you're God looking at God and saying, please see it the way I do. Please have a great experience with this birthday present I got you. Please. And if not, free them, and you will be free. Absolutely, unequivocally free. And all this hinges nothing more than the pebbles that you drop into your mind. I'm willing to see all events are neutral. I'm willing to accept God's not judging any of it. God's too busy creating and creating and creating and creating and creating. What if I got busy creating exactly what I desired to experience, peace, rather than I'm creating only what I don't want to experience? Or, you're pushing against what you don't want. So you're the pebble tosser in your mind. And just because someone else, me or anyone else, don't take any pebbles I toss. Unless you want to pick them up and say, wow, I'd like to try that pebble. I'll throw it in my own pond.
Where then have you drawn the line? Where have you said, well, I will allow neutrality to all events in this sphere, but not in that sphere. If my friends divorce or separate, well, okay, I'll see that as neutral. But if my spouse leaves me, that is not neutral. If your friend's father leaves $3 million to his children, well, that's fine. That's a neutral event. But if my father leaves his $3 million to charity and leaves me out of the picture, that is not a neutral event. If the streams in a country on the other side of the world from where you are become polluted because the consciousness of a community allowed a factory to be built without safeguards, well, it's on the other side of the world, neutral event. But if they build it in my backyard, it is no longer neutral. It is always wise to look lovingly to see where you have drawn the line, to see what you will look upon as neutral, and what you cling to as being filled with meaning and value that is unquestionable. For there you will find what requires forgiveness within you. We have shared with you that mastery is a state of fearlessness. When you place a value upon something and then become adamant that that value exists in the event or the object outside of you, you have but secured your place in fear. And fearlessness is as far from you as the east is from the west.
You won't have to go far. You won't have to wait long to see within your consciousness where you're placing value. Look at what's driving every one of your decisions. Look at what's driving every one of your choices. Where are you placing value? You will see it all day long. Ooh, I really love this song on the radio, but not this one. I'm not saying that it's not okay to like one better than the other. The point is, are you conscious that you're placing value? Because if you're placing value on your mate, or on your health, or on the home that you live in, or on your job or anything else, you may be gloriously happy about it, but underneath there will be a fear lurking, ready to strike if the mortgage can't get paid, or the company shuts down. So be willing to say, if this were to leave my life immediately, would I be at peace? If this event were to happen in my life, would I be at peace? And wherever the answer is no, and you don't have to spend an awful lot of time, you'll start to uncover this secret database, this secret trove of forgiveness opportunities deep in your being when you start to look at this. Do I need the body to be in this condition to meet my idea of being a good course student? Do I, whatever it is, look and see. And then he says, look lovingly on it. Wow, as an infinite creator in my infinite freedom, I chose to give my pet the value to destroy my state of being. That if my pet were run over, I would be incredibly distressed. Look on it lovingly and own it. I, as an infinite creator, have allowed and created this experience. There's nothing wrong with the experience. Is that what you would choose if you were doing it consciously? Would I choose to let so many things be the source of my loss of peace? Completely free, absolutely up to you. So when you look lovingly at it, go, oh my gosh. I mean, I did this over and over and over with Cindy and I's relationship. I said, oh my gosh, I have placed value. And I wallpapered Cindy with expectations. And I was like vigilant for not where she was meeting them, but of course where she wasn't meeting them. So that I could justify all my angst and fear and blah, 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 blah. So look, you won't have to look far. You will not look far. So mastery is a state of fearlessness until you're truly open and say, every possibility is okay. I'm willing to throw the pebbles in my pond. How great a joyful experience, a peaceful experience, a walk in the world as Christ can I have? But that doesn't mean that if something happens, that then I'm going to go, oh, well, forget all that, because this is more important. Watch where your attention goes. Watch the things that you're drawn to. All of that will begin to unravel and show you what's really deep down there, where you've placed value on everything. And we can go from bad to all of a sudden placing value on good, but that's just the other side of the duality coin. He didn't say the bad side of the coin is neutral, but the good side is right on. It's all neutral. You're creating it yourself. And whatever yours is fine. Whatever anyone else's is fine. What is it that you choose? Are you willing to wake up and be ever greaterly conscious about that? So when you give value to any event or any perceived possible event, look within your mind at daydreaming. What are you doing? You're placing value on what you want future events to be. How many of us have done that? Showed up in a dinner party and the fantasy we had about it wasn't realized and we end up disappointed. I mean, that's really investing a lot of energy in creating value about potentials that are completely out of your control. And we do that both forward in seeming time and of course backward in seeming time. So fearlessness is as far from you as the east is from the west. Well, that seems like a really, really long place, doesn't it? It's another koan. Get a globe, go east. Get a globe, go west. Bam. You're that close to defenselessness all the time. There is no gap. There is no distance between defense or fearlessness and where you think you are now. It's a choice. The whole parable in the Bible about David slaying Goliath with one stone was one choice for peace. Slayed the ego with all its fear. Big scary ego. One choice. That's what frees you. Cool. Wow, I had fun doing that. Rich with great pebbles, lots of fun. And by the way, these events are neutral. Like them, don't like them. You're absolutely free to. I don't know if I've ever asked any of you, did you really like what I had to say? No, quite the contrary. I say, you're giving it all the meaning you can. It has for you. Like it, don't like it, I don't care. I'm not the least bit disturbed. I'm too busy being at peace. That's a real bowling ball in a relationship, I'll tell you. That'll knock a lot of pins over if you're in a special relationship. Any questions or comments tonight? Okay. And let me do announcements real quick. If you're interested in us doing a retreat, Cindy and I have got one booked in Asheville that's going to come up in May. For those of you who are local or anyone else in April, do you know the dates? I think it's the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th. We're going to be in Wolfsboro, New Hampshire. There'll be information on the website by the 1st of December for that one. If you're interested in coming and sitting with me privately, either in person or on Skype or on the phone, you know, if you've made this journey, some of this is really invaluable information, because if you haven't made the journey, you don't really know that those steps are ahead. So it can really help to quicken a journey to spend time together. Love offering. I love myself. Oh, I love myself. And I love that I have the mastery of choice all the time. Because the choiceless choice is I'm always at choice. I'm willing to use that for perfect fearlessness and perfect peace. And that's no greater than the ones who are using it for fear. We're all experiencing the results. I mean, they're no less enlightened. They're just acting as though they're not. They're still creating their experience. So it's not better than anything else, but it's a whole different experience. I'll assure you of that. When I come to do this work, of course, Jeshua comes with me. The whole heavenly host of beings who are supporting our awakening come. The one I am in all its infinite aspects is in support of this, because this is what creation is. We love you with an absolutely infinite love and a perfect, perfect peace. Let all events be neutral, even our love and our perfect peace. Or not, it's up to you.